understand that you are nothing. Okay? So when we let go and we surrender who we think you are. When I was there in that in the Sri Aurobindo ashram in Oroville at this guy's compound, I wanted to bring everything with me. The monkey on my back, the whole ego array. I wanted to bring it with me. So I was not down with the concept of being nothing. I was not down with surrendering those things which kept me separate. And I think that's a very, very important teaching. So this is great stuff here. Is there anything else I want to think? Oh, I want to tell everybody, I'm starting to see some direct support from y'all. I'm in the South, you understand, and I'm trying to talk like everybody talks here. So I thank you for the support, and whatever you can do, just hit the donate button either on the site or on the podcast site, and it would really be great to help further the foundation. Love Server Member Foundation presents everything that we do, that Ram Dass does, that other teachers that we have that come from Neem Karoli Baba or in that environment that we met in the early days, like Sharon Salzberg and Joseph Goldstein from the Vipassana community, which we are very close to. So thanks for the support, and please do continue, and we appreciate it. And here's Ram Dass, Here and Now, third part of the promises and pitfalls of the spiritual path.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Imagine for a moment that your time was unlimited. How would you use it? Naturally, you'd want to spend that time doing what matters most to you and what makes you happy. You could read all the books you've been letting pile up. You could meditate for as long as you want. You could go for extra long walks outside and stop to smell all of the roses. So what's important to you? Therapy can help you find and prioritize what matters most so you can do more of it. Speaking with a therapist on a regular basis is a great way to increase your self-awareness and self-esteem. Develop positive coping mechanisms. Alter negative thought patterns and behaviors. Become more productive at work. Build stronger relationships. And more. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, plus switch therapists at any time with no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/RamDass today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/RamDass.
And in a way, what's happening is the ego has been based on, the whole structure of it has been based on our separateness and our needs and desires to make us feel comfortable and happy and at home. And as Trungpa Rinpoche said in his rascally way, he said, enlightenment is the ego's ultimate disappointment. And that's the predicament. You see the fact that your spiritual journey is an entirely different ballgame than the one you thought you were on. It's a different path than you thought you were on. And it's very hard to make that transition, and a lot of people don't want to. They want to take the power from their spiritual work and make their life nice. That is wonderful, and I honor it, and it's great. And it's exactly your karmappans. But that is not freedom, and that is not what the spiritual path offers as the potential. It offers freedom, but freedom demands complete surrender. Meaning surrender of who you think you are and what you think you're doing into what is. And it's mind-boggling when you understand how powerful. It's the game of dying into yourself. But there is a death in it. And people grieve. There is a grief when you start, who you thought you were starts to disappear. Kala Rinpoche says, he's a beautiful man, beautiful, beautiful man. He said, we live in illusion, the appearance of things. But there is a reality. We are that reality. When you understand this, you see that you are nothing. And being nothing, you are everything. That's all. Is that so far out? Can you hear that? We live in illusion, the appearance of things. But there is a reality. We are that reality. When you understand this, you see that you are nothing. You're nothing special anymore. You're just part of it all. And being nothing, but you are part of it all. You're everything. The minute you give up your specialness, you're part of all things. Then you're in harmony. You're in the Tao. You're in the way of things. You're in the moment. But you're not anybody anymore. You're just part of it. This is just phenomena happening at this moment. The illusion that I'm doing this and that you're busy listening, that's all our minds. Behind it, here we are. There's just this. Nothing else, nothing special. This stuff is very, very far out, and we don't want to hear how far out it is. I just take people through the first line of the third Chinese patriarch of Zen's writings. Just the first line. It's a little booklet. It's only about 10 pages long. First line says, "The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences." When love and the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate, when love and hate are absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Yes. The slightest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. To make the slightest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are infinitely apart. Sorry, I don't remember it exactly. You can see why I don't want to remember it. It's interesting because that doesn't mean have no preferences. And now this isn't a cop-out. This is as deep as I can get. It doesn't mean having no preferences. It means not being attached to your preferences. Of course you have preferences and opinions, but you don't have preferences and opinions. That's the one, if you don't get what you want, you don't get what you want. How interesting. Because the interesting process is the transformation, not getting what you want all the time. Surrender. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Surrender. Mahatma Gandhi, one of my great teachers, says, God demands nothing less than complete self-surrender as the price for the only freedom that is worth having. When a person thus loses herself or himself, she or he immediately finds himself in the service of all that lives. It becomes their delight and recreation. They are a new people never weary of spending themselves in the service of God's creation. Reminds me of the story of the pig and chicken that are walking down the street. And they're hungry and they want breakfast, and they come to a restaurant and they start to go in, and the pig says, I'm not going in there. Why not? Because there's a sign that says ham and eggs. Chicken says, oh, come on, we'll have something else. Pig says, look, it's fine for you. All they want is a contribution from you. From me, they want total surrender. They want everything. Okay, I got to finish quick. I'm sorry I'm running so far. It's just such interesting stuff. If I do say, it's not mine. One of the things we develop along the way is the witness, the ability to quietly observe the phenomena, including our own behavior, our own emotions, our own reactions, and it's fascinating. And as you cultivate the witness more deeply, it's like you're living simultaneously on two levels. There's a level of witness, and then there's the level of desire, fear, emotions, action, reaction, etc. That is a stage in the process. And it gives you, again, a great deal of power. There is another stage beyond that, which is, again, the surrender issue. Here's a quote. When the mind gazes into the mind itself, the train of discursive and conceptual thought ends, and supreme enlightenment is gained. See, when the witness turns in on itself, when the witness witnesses the witness, it's like a Zen koan technique. Then you go in behind that, and then you come into awareness where everything just is. And you're no longer busy with one part of your mind watching another. You're not busy watching, you're just being. It comes very simple again. I'm having the most extraordinary experience these days that I have gotten an increasing number of letters. Here I have spent 25 years trying to become divine. And most of the letters I get now say, thank you for being so human. Isn't that far out? One of the big traps we have in the West is our intelligence, is our thinking, because we want to know we know. And the thing about freedom is you can be wise, or you can know knowledge. You can't know wisdom, you can be wise. Wisdom has simplicity to it. When my guru wanted to put me down, he called me clever. When he wanted to reward me, he'd say he's simple. And I can understand the way in which we want to, that the intellect is a beautiful servant, as I think Vivekananda, Yogananda said. It's a beautiful servant, but it's a terrible master. The thing is that the intellect is the power tool of our separateness. And the intuitive, compassionate heart is the doorway to our unity. And the dialogue between the mind and the heart has gotten out of balance in this culture, so that we are enamored of our intellectual powers, just like we must have been at one time of our prehensile capacity. We are enamored of our intellectual power, which is in the service of protecting us as separate entities. So to the intellect, the heart, which would give away the shop, is seen as a threat, an inward threat. Because when you see somebody in the street, here, take my coat, here, take my money, here, and the mind saying, now wait a minute, forget that lilies in the field crap, just think about tomorrow. Yeah. And in a way, what the spiritual path at its best offers is a chance for us to come back into the innate, compassionate quality of our heart and our intuitive wisdom. And get back into the balance where when we need our intellect, it's available as a servant, but we are not ruled by it and trapped in our thinking mind. And to me, that is well worth working for, because as Albert Hoffman pointed out this morning, most of the social, ecological, and political problems we have are the creation of the human intellect, as along with all the benefits. And the answer to that is the re-recognition of the unitive nature of all things, and realizing you are nothing and therefore you are everything. What I have done tonight is try to show you that the spiritual path is a graceful opportunity for us The fact that you and I even hear there is such a path is such grace for a human life from a karmic point of view. And each of us must be true to ourselves to hear what is our unique way through. Because if you get phony holy, it ends up kicking you in the butt. You've got to stay true to yourself. And for people to say things like, if I didn't have my children, I could meditate. Your children are your path. For many people, service is their path. For many people, their marriage is their path. Relationship yoga is exquisite yoga. I don't mean sloppy. I mean really disciplined techniques. Meditation is a beautiful baseline for the whole game. Devotional practices are extraordinary. These are all incredibly useful. Study of metaphysics, of the words of holy people, are just incredible. We have the chance to become the truth which we're yearning for. One of Gandhi's strongest lines that guides me all the time is that he's sitting on a train and a reporter rushes up and says, Mahatmaji, give me a message to take back to the people in my village. And Gandhi just has time to scribble on a paper bag, and he hands it out and it says, my life is my message. And it's like the rabbi who said, I went to see the tzaddik, the mystic rabbi, in the other village. He said, I didn't go to study the Torah with him, I went to see how he ties his shoes. And St. Francis says, it doesn't pay to walk to preach unless our preaching is our walking. Finally, we must integrate the spirituality into our daily lives, bring into it the equanimity and the joy, and the awe, and the ability to look suffering in the eye and embrace it into yourself without averting your glance. When I work with AIDS patients and I'm holding somebody and my heart is breaking because I love this person and they are suffering so much with fissures in their rectum and social ostracism and all of that shit, and I can't handle it. I mean, I'm crying with them, and at the same moment inside of me is this equanimity and joy, and it's almost, the paradox is almost too much for me to be able to handle. But that is what real helping is about. Because if all you do is get caught in the suffering, all you're doing is digging everybody's hole deeper. Finally, you work on yourself spiritually as an offering to your fellow beings. Because until you have cultivated that quality of peace and equanimity and love and joy and presence and honesty and truth and simplicity, all of your acts are colored by your attachments. You can't wait to be enlightened to act, so you use your acts as ways of working on yourself. So while we started out tonight talking about paths and practices and lineages, for me, my entire life is my path. Every experience I have, as Emmanuel, my ghostly friend, said to me, Ram Dass, why don't you take the curriculum, try being human? Because it's all the curriculum. It's an exquisite curriculum. I invite you to join me in matriculating. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, while you're up and stretching, stay up and keep stretching, and let me just tell you what we're going to do now. And if you got to pee and stuff, that's fine, but we're going to keep going because we want to keep moving. We're going to do a practice now. Try to stay with this for a second. We're going to do a practice of chanting. Now, you've heard chanting before, I'm sure, and you say, oh, isn't that nice? I remember when we used to chant up in my father's barn, we were chanting Hare Krishna. And he'd say, who is this Hare Krishna? And I said, he says, it's a pretty tune, but you have to keep repeating it. And the answer is that it's a method. That what you do is you use your singing and your energy, and you repeat. This is Rama on the stage, and that's Gangadhar. Gangadhar's the drummer, and Rama's singing and with a harmonium. And she will sing a line, and then we will repeat it back to her. And then she'll just take us on a trip through that singing. And what you do is, it'll be a little alien to many of you, but that's okay. Just let's surrender into it and allow it at first to be strange, and then just watch your own reactions and take it in deeper and deeper. It isn't, the game isn't to get into the emotional, yeah. It's to take it in deeper and deeper until the repetition is just like following the breath. It's a technique. It's not serious. It's light, and you can move to it any way you want, or sit. And we do it for a little while together. Okay? It's just an experiment. And those of you that don't feel comfortable doing that are free to just quietly leave. And the rest of us will play for a little while. Rama?
Krishna, Krishna, Hare
brought to you by the Love Serve Remember Foundation and Ramdas.org. We appreciate all the support for the foundation and for Ram Dass's work, and we hope that you will continue that support. You can go to ramdas.org and click on the Donate Now button and follow the prompts. Thank you.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Many people spend their lives wishing they had more time in their day. The best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find and prioritize what matters most so you can do more of it. It's a great way to increase self-awareness, develop coping skills, change negative emotions, and more. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Ramdas today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Ramdas.
Showed it wasn't snowing in Hope, really. Less than Chilliwack. C'est bon. Yeah, no, this is a dead spot. This is where we lose the radio. That's alright. Just keep singing Hare Krishna in my head.
premium and luxury brand appliances at Midland Appliance.
John Burns, the elders told him the story of the giant was no myth. It was insistent deep in the coast mountains of British Columbia. His students told him stories about a strange giant
Deep in the
lurking in the
mountains of British
forest.
Columbia.
It was a tale told by the local tribe for generations. Burns became curious. Were these stories true? The Indians insisted it was just a myth. But one night, an elder admitted they weren't exactly truthful with him, fearing the white man would mock their beliefs. But over time, Burns earned their trust. The elders told him the story of the giant was no myth. Many of the Indians had seen this creature with their own eyes, and not from a distance. It had chased them. Burns was shown the house this mountain giant destroyed with its bare hands as the family ran in for safety. They had a name for the giant. It was hard to pronounce. In the native Salish language, it was spelled S-E-S-Q-E-T, and it meant wild man. Mainstream media anglicized the pronunciation and called it Sasquatch, and a legend was born. In June of 2020, a husband and wife were on a long-distance hike in the wilderness of Trinity County in California. It was a clear day, just after 10 a.m., when they approached a creek. Then they heard an unfamiliar, high-pitched animal call. It could have been a bird.
That's no bird.
Then they saw it. An animal crouching down, drinking from the creek. They were about 20 feet away. Then it sensed their presence and looked up. Their eyes met. Its eyes were human-like. What?
Humans have very creepy eyes.
No, we don't.
Well, you get the colored ball that just floats around in the white goo. Ugh, I don't know how you can stand it. Those things are gross.
You look in a mirror lately?
What? Everybody tells me I got gorgeous peepers. I take after my mother.
Now that you've brought the exciting part of the story to a screeching halt, do you mind if I get back to it?
Go ahead, gross eye.
All right, I lost my place.
You were talking about how the lady was freaked out at the gross balls and the white goo in that thing's head.
Its eyes.
What'd I say?
The creature jumped. Then it ran up a steep hill, first on all fours. Then when it reached the opposite bank, it stood on two legs and ran with long strides up the mountain.
Easier access?
They knew it wasn't any of the common animals seen in
Yeah,
the
I
area.
guess.
Nope, that was a Bigfoot.
It was. They were sure of it. By 2020, this animal, disavowed by mainstream science, was wildly famous, and people saw them all the time. Over the years, investigators have logged and followed up on over 3,000 Bigfoot encounters, including over 100 tracks encased in plaster and archived. In fact, it all started with a footprint. In August of 1958, Jerry Crew worked construction near Buff Creek, deep in the woods of Northern California. About a quarter mile beyond camp, he saw animal tracks at the end of the road.
You want to go the other way then?
Yeah,
When
I
he
think
climbed in
so.
his tractor and saw the tracks from above, he realized they weren't from an ordinary animal.
It's just because if we have to turn around, it's like kind of annoying. And
These
narrow.
were human-like feet, and they were huge, 16 inches long, which meant an animal at least 8 feet tall. Crew told his boss.
Sides
And
really
eventually,
nice.
over 20 men from the job site reported seeing huge footprints by the Mad River nearby. Crew realized the prints he found needed to be saved for investigation, so he encased them in plaster, and they informed the local newspaper
Figure
what they
easy,
found,
down to the bottom of
and
the hill
they
and check
printed
that
the story.
easy
Suddenly,
way in
this
first,
local
and that way you
incident
can come
became
back
a
up.
national sensation.
But
Reporters
no,
from
we'll
all the
cross-
wire
yeah,
services
doesn't make a
arrived.
difference. We have to cross the highway either
Representatives
way.
from the New York Times, LA Times, San Francisco papers, everywhere. Bigfoot had become a celebrity. Now, of course, plaster feet didn't convince everyone it was real. People wanted hard evidence. They wanted a photograph. A few years later, they got much more than that.
What?
Roger Patterson was among the many Americans obsessed with Bigfoot in the 1960s. But he took his passion further than most. He lived in Yakima, Washington, right where these creatures were most often seen. and he was determined to prove they existed. So he got a camera, he hunted for tracks, he interviewed witnesses. In 1966, he released a book with detailed accounts of footprints and actual Bigfoot sightings. He asked his friend Bob Gimlin to join him on a 2-week trip to investigate some tracks he heard about. And in October of '67, they got way more than they bargained for. A few days into their trip, they were exploring a remote region of Bluff Creek on horseback. Both Patterson and Gimlin were armed with rifles and cameras. A pile of fallen trees blocked their trip in the canyon, so they stopped to find a way around. And that's when they saw it. About 80 feet away, Bigfoot was crouched by a creek. It was massive. It sensed they were watching it, then it stood up and just stared at them.
Oh, with the creepy human eyes?
Yes. Then Patterson's horse started bucking. He managed to pull his camera out of the saddlebag before his horse ran off in fear. Then Gimlin's horse got agitated. He hopped off and his horse bolted too. Things were getting chaotic. The Bigfoot had seen enough and started heading for the dense forest. Patterson was running out of time. He ran toward it with the camera filming, trying to keep the creature in the shot. Then his foot caught a branch and he tripped and fell. The Bigfoot turned to stare at him. It looked 7 feet tall and it looked female. It seemed to have breasts. They nicknamed her Patty. And this last look back mid-stride has become iconic. It's the image we all think about when we think of Bigfoot. They followed the tracks for 600 yards into the canyon and saw the prints go uphill. They did not pursue. If a female was this big, they didn't want to risk running into a male. But they did take casts of the footprints. Based on the depth and size, scientists estimated the creature weighed 600 pounds. But even better, they had film footage. And to this day, the footage has not been debunked. Experts have analyzed the footage over and over, and the details remain compelling. This just doesn't seem like a guy in a costume. The creature in the film has contracting calf muscles. Its arms are longer than an average human, and its legs are shorter, consistent with an ape. It had a peak on the back of its head, like the sagittal crest of a gorilla. And there's more. When it walks, it flexes its midfoot like an ape. The fur on its back below its head is darker and standing up, just like it would on a gorilla who's agitated or afraid. If this was a prank, those are a lot of details to get right. So why don't we just say it's an ape? Because apes don't walk upright, not like humans. And Bigfoot clearly does. Not to mention, there haven't been apes or primates in the wild of North America for 26 million years. But here it was, upright walking Bigfoot in the wild. To this day, Patterson's film is the most important piece of evidence of the creature's existence. So what is this half-human, half-animal creature? Some speculate it's from a different dimension or some kind of shapeshifter. Some correlate Bigfoot sightings to UFO landings, but we don't need to speculate. We know a lot about Bigfoot's behavior because people are still
That's the
seeing.
box that you took a shit in.
Every witness account of
there's a
Bigfoot,
cabin
and
on the
again, there have been
corner.
over 3,000 logged by investigators, describes a creature between 6 and 8 feet tall. All the sightings report similar behavior. They're curious, but often watch us from afar, like the Sasquatch seen in 2013 by a hunter in the Sispus River area of the Cascade Mountains. The witness used his game call, which let out a squeal like a rabbit. And 60 feet away, behind a tree, he saw a Sasquatch take notice, and it watched for nearly a minute before walking away. Bigfoot has very long strides and can cover distances impossible for humans, as witnessed by a father and son fishing in Sacramento County, Washington in 2002. They saw a Sasquatch from 100 yards away. It was startled by their truck's engine, and they watched it move in 6-foot strides straight up a hill and disappear up a mountain. People consistently describe its eyes as very close to humans. Like the former U.S. Army infantry sergeant camping in the Mount Adams wilderness in July 1991. He was walking up to a river and froze when he saw it across the bank 20 feet away. He described it in all the familiar ways, between 6 and 8 feet tall, with broad shoulders.